consecutive giant slalom wins, 3 on the year. Germany's Victoria Rebensburg is on the verge of capturing her first career discipline title. She is just looking to extend her season. A strong result today will do that. Canada's Marie-Michelle Gagnon, 21st in the standings and ready to roll. Storylines are aplenty as we wind down this World Cup season. More than just podium finishes on the line in Åre, Sweden. Indeed, and you get used to the number top 30 all season long, and suddenly we have to switch our attention to the top 25 with Brian Stemmel. I'm Brad Faisal. First, that requires an explanation. As to get to the World Cup finals, you've got to be in the top 25 in the points.
There's always an explanation for something in alpine skiing that they do differently. But yeah, essentially, the top 25 qualify for the World Cup finals next week in Schladming. Remember, you get 100 points for finishing first, you get 1 for finishing 30th, and the top 25 move on to the following week in Schladming. And it's important for them to do that because next year, all the points that they attain will go towards a World Cup start list, and that'll get them better start position. So it's important for them to get into the World Cup final so they gain more points.
We'll talk about the bottom portion of that equation in a moment, but at the top, and no doubt skier that will be going to the World Cup finals is Victoria Rebensburg, about the only discipline that Lindsey Vonn hasn't dominated. She is second, yeah. But Rebensburg is going to win the overall here unless something wild happens.
Right, 135 points ahead of Lindsey Vonn is Victoria Rebensburg, and she's been fabulous all season long. Second in the first race, first in Aspen in the second race, and hasn't finished out of the top 5 all season except when she fell in Soldau. But really, she said, I need to focus on my technique and not about winning that Crystal Globe, because that's the important thing right now. And she did that last weekend. When she's totally dialed in and completely focused, she's really hard to beat. And no matter what the conditions are, because it was very warm here in Ofterschwang last weekend, but it didn't matter. You can see all the ruts and the grooves that they're laying into that soft snow, but Rebensburg has just been skiing beautifully all year long and proved it again on back-to-back days. And she said, hey, why not do it on back-to-back days when I'm just one of the best in the world and I'm leading the standings?
Yeah, she swept both of those races in Ofterschwang, as you alluded to, and that put her in complete control of the overall standings in giant slalom, separating herself from the great Lindsey Vonn of the United States. As we show you the standings, we talk about number 21 because it is a Canadian, Marie-Michelle Gagnon, and again, trying to get through to the top 25. And what will that take for her today, Brian, to make sure that she holds that position and gets through to the World Cup finals?
Well, she just has to ski as well as she has been all season long, and she's proven in giant slalom that she is a contender and has had some fabulous runs. But she was completely overshadowed last week by Erin Malzinski winning that when Erin won the slalom and Marie-Michelle was 5th, her best result of the season. So she just has to take that confidence that she had in the slalom, move it into this week, and she'll be completely fine moving into those World Cup finals.
Yeah, you talked about the significance of it, the points being carried over, and also to put a nice little bow on a nice finish to the season for the women. It hasn't been the best of years in the on the Alpine circuit for the Canadian women, but finishing up strong. Let's take you to racing now. On this day in Åre, Sweden, Elizabeth Gorgel of Austria, 35 podiums to her credit, and always one of those skiers to watch because she has been a top 10 finisher in all but one race. That one she did not finish this year in giant slalom.
Nothing better than starting number 1 when you're just in that start hut all by yourself and your start coach with you. You just breathe and relax and focus on what you have to do. And Gorgel is familiar with this course, and it winds its way down really steep up top, then winds its way down over some nice rolls at the bottom. My goodness, she's down.
Well, there you go. Mentioned that she'd been a top 10 finisher in every race, 3rd, 2nd, 7th, 5th, 3rd, and 8th. And the one race she did not finish, the second race. So here's a first for her, and really an upset for the great Austrian.
Wow, just a little impatient in that turn. Tried to get to the red too quickly before staying on her downhill ski, and down on her side and out.
Saw that it's warm, and Tina Maze will like that if she chooses to show another message on her bra on this day when it's over. Top 5s this year in slalom, giant slalom, downhill, Super G. She is one of the great all-round skiers in the world, and she has had a podium in each of the last 3 giant slalom.
Earlier on in the season, if you missed it, she was wearing some underwear that the International Ski Federation didn't like. It wasn't permeable enough. The wind has to pass through it, and so they told her not to wear it anymore. And she took a picture. It's actually on the front of Sport Week magazine of just her and her bra, said "None of your business" on it. And she's been struggling at the beginning of the season in GS. She was trying longer skis, and it just really wasn't working for her. And she changed her skis, went back to the skis she used at the World Championships last year, and then sure enough, 5th, 2nd, 2nd, 3rd. So you would consider her one of the favorites today on her old skis.
And she is a defending world champ in giant slalom as well, Tina Maze of Slovenia. So with Gorgo falling, Maze sets the pace in the first run of this women's giant slalom. And always setting the pace is Lindsey Vonn of the United States, a 27-year-old, a season for the ages, and it will continue on Sportsnet after this. Back with the women's giant slalom from Åre, Sweden, and Lindsey Vonn has established a number of marks this year. She has 10 wins overall. She has already clinched the downhill and the super combined titles. And while it's still a long shot, don't count her out when it comes to the giant slalom.
Whoa, big mistake up top. That's sideways, but look how aggressive she's being in her tuck. It's like she's skiing downhill or super G, not giant slalom when she gets in there. And I don't think she really counts herself out of this GS title, even though she's 135 points back. I think she still believes she can win it. She's won the super combined, the downhill already. Overall's pretty much wrapped up. Actually, can probably win that today if she has a decent enough result, but she's hunting down Rebensburg like a tiger. And look at this, good lead so far, over half a second, skiing really nicely.
First of 2 runs in the women's giant slalom, and Lindsey Vonn, a 10th place finish and 2nd last week in Achterschwang. She won the opener at Solden, got her historic season off to the kind of start you'd expect, and here she is with a half-second advantage after the first run, and Lindsey Vonn could be establishing herself as a skier to beat coming down for the second.
Really, really nice skiing up top. And then down at the bottom, look at that ski bend. Remember, she uses longer, stiffer skis, and she's able to make them bend like that. It's incredible. We'll get that other one bending too in the middle of the turn as she lays on it a little bit and then just rolls it over nicely, bends it once again. You think she doesn't want this? Look how far she's just stretching across the finish line, reaching out as far as she can, trying to break that red line with her arm, that beam that runs across. Even, you know, it's only going to add a couple hundredths of a second, but that could be the difference, like it was last year, her losing the overall by 3 points to Maria Hoffel-Riesch.
So Victoria Rebensburg of Germany, the leader in giant slalom when it comes to the standings, had to watch that and now gets her first crack at the hill. She has been dominant. The only time she hasn't been on the podium in the giant slalom this year was a 4th place finish and then a race that she did not finish. So certainly the skier to beat, but Lindsey Vonn has sent a bit of a message in her first run.
And really, that's really the only knock on Rebensburg. Her coaches say sometimes she loses concentration, and that's what happened in Soldau when she fell and went out. Oh, that's a sweet turn. Key in giant slalom is you want to make your turn going down the fall line. So if you were to roll a soccer ball down the fall line of the hill, it would roll straight down. That's where you want to make your quick little arc like she does right in there, right at the gate, and then cruise over to the next turn. Not putting too much pressure on your edges, and she's just able to do it really nicely. Even, wow, 0.4 of a second back of Vonn's a surprise. 4 wins this year in giant slalom, including the sweep
that Aufderschwang last week that we talked about off the top of the show. Will she be chasing Lindsey Vonn for the second run? Yes, but only 7/100ths of a second to play with for the American. And with several skiers to come, this is setting up as a very interesting stretch drive, the second run of the giant slalom. Marie-Michelle Gagnon of Canada, her first run, and we know what's at stake, 21st in the overall standings, trying to hang in and around that position, top 25, go to the World Cup finals.
A little wide through the middle of the course, but carrying lots of speed. Usually when you are offline a little bit, means you're carrying a lot of speed unless you make a big mistake, and 6/10 back isn't too bad at the midway. Oh, lost a lot of time in that midsection. Maybe that one little mistake cost her. Team's feeling really great right now. They had such a fun week last weekend. When Erin Molzinski won, Marie-Michelle was 5th, and some good training this week. Their coach, Hugh Anzermo, said they are fired up to do well here today.
A DNF and a 14th at Aufderschwang for Marie-Michelle Gagnon, and here a 12th placing through the first run. And again, you talk about loose and feeling good, and it's a good time for Canadian women's skiing.
Yeah, and having some fun. That's great. Cut your number in half on the first run, and then stick your nose in there on the second run, see how well you do. That's what happened last weekend. Good run for Mitch.
The legendary Anja Persson of Sweden, skiing near home, won this event back-to-back in 03 and 04. You're looking at pictures from 2004 as she gets set to wade off into retirement. You see the excitement that she creates. 21st, 20th, and 25th have been the results this year in giant slalom, along with the DNQ.
Yeah, she's really been struggling, and she's been working with the Canadian team, and they said really in Bansko is the only place in Bulgaria that she was attacking a little bit in the downhill, skiing really passively, and I asked them, has she talked about retiring whatsoever? And they said no, she really hasn't said much about it. But remember, at the Olympics, she said she was going to retire after the Olympics and stuck around for another couple of years. But man, when you're 4 seconds back at the interval, I think it's time to call it a day. She's just been injured so much and has had a brilliant career. I just hate to see somebody go out like this with, not a very, very good run whatsoever.
95 podiums to her credit. She'll be 31 in a little over a month's time. Made her debut in the World Cup circuit back in 1998. One of the greats all time. But as you said, maybe for Anja Persson, it's time to wind it down. The Swedish crowd won't care. They'll give her the send-off she deserves. Marie-Pierre Prefontaine, another Canadian in the field.
Oh, no.
And another Canadian quickly out of the field. She has had her troubles, DNQs, in giant slalom this year. We got to look from behind as to what happened with Marie-Pierre Prefontaine.
Well, has really lost all of her confidence, and this is only the second or third gate right up there. And don't follow this course worker. Have a look right there. There she goes, falls on her side, and you can see which way that panel falls. She's just below it and slid out on her side, and that's it.
The other Canadian in the field, Erin Molzinski, what a story. She won the slalom at Aufderschwang last week and has been the talk of Canadian alpine skiing since then.
It really was something amazing and totally ridiculous. I couldn't believe it when she actually did win it, 5th after the first run, and just skied really smart and aggressive and solid. And the reason why she's skiing giant slalom, she skied giant slalom the day before in Aufderschwang, gave her some confidence to race on the hill, knowing what the nuances are, knowing what the snow's like a little bit. That's why she's doing this again today. Probably not going to qualify in the top 30 for that second run. They're 43rd, so she won't. But it just gives her more confidence, more feel for the hill, because of the slalom that they'll be racing tomorrow.
Yeah, it's just 21 years old and trying to build on what she did last week. Lindsey Vonn just continues to build on her unbelievable career and her unbelievable season. Through the first run, she is a skier to beat. But look at the gap. Victoria Rebensburg trying to wrap up the overall standings, and Marie-Michelle Gagnon right there needs to be in the top 25 at day's end to get to the World Cup finals. The second run will decide it when we come back on Sportsnet. Andrea Fischbacher of Austria finds herself at the top of the hill for the second run. Lindsey Vonn set the pace. Rebensburg just in behind her. And Andrea Fischbacher is the Olympic champion in Super G. As for GS, DNQ and a DNF at Aufderschwang last week. The 12th place at Lens is the best of her season.
She has been struggling all season long. Her knees acting up, and sprained her thumb in Garmisch in the Super G race there. She's much better in Super G than she is in giant slalom, but she's trying to figure it out. Talked to her coach, Herbert Mandel, and he said she's just lacking a bit of confidence, that she needs to be able to allow her to take the risks. But when you have injuries and you play sports, you know that you just can't attack fully, and that's what she's finding out right now. She's just having problems attacking the hill. I find it a little easier being number one on this buffed out hill, but that light's gotten really flat. Clouds come in on this second run, and that will make it tough to see for the rest of the women.
We are in Åre, Sweden. It's the women's giant slalom, and Fischbacher establishing the time to beat it. She is the first skier down in the second run. 21-year-old Italian Lisa Magdalena Azure. In her 19th or 18th World Cup start, just a young skier. She did not finish the second run in the first race at Aufderschwang, then finished 15th, which is the best of her career.
Yeah, and moved up to 30th in the standings, so she'll be looking for a good solid second run to try and move her up into that top 25 so she gets into the World Cup finals. Whoa, screaming down here. This is a nice, fast set course by the Austrians, and you're talking about her being young. Well, you know, when you're young, you do make mistakes, and she was in the race in Garmisch and went up to the start and had her pole stolen. So she had to use a course worker's poles to go down for her Super G race in Garmisch. It was completely miserable because, you know, that's like playing with your kid's hockey stick when you're going for your, you know, your big shot in the NHL. So not a great start in Garmisch for her. The next day she actually wrapped her hand around a gate and had to ski down with one pole. So she's hung on to them this run, and that looks pretty good.
She won 4 straight Euro Cup giant slaloms this year, but this is the big girls where they play, and she's happy with that, the young Italian skier. Anemone Marmotin of France, 23 years old, 15th, and then a DNF on the second run at Aufderschwang last week. Her season best came at Kranjska Gora when she finished 7th. She is 24th in the standings and a tie for that mark, and that is important for Canadian ski fans watching Marie-Michelle Gagnon try to hang on to a top 25. She sits in 21st, so here's one of the skiers that could do some damage to her World Cup final hopes.
And very wide coming over that roll. Managed to hang in there. She's being really aggressive, really lays that hip into the hill early, carves a beautiful turn, and she was really frustrated after falling last week. She's just trying to finish, she said here today.
41st World Cup start of her career, no podiums to her credit, but she did finish 4th at Saint Moritz last year, so we know we'll hear from this young skier from France. The key now, she's not going to win this race or podium. Can she get herself into the top 25? Will that be enough? She will have to sweat it out for a number of skiers through the second run here in Åre, Sweden. Ressie Stiegler of the United States, 26 years old, has had trouble in the giant slalom. Only qualified once this year, and that was finishing 22nd in the second race last week at Aufderschwang.
We really have to talk about her slalom skills much more than her giant slalom skills, a lot like Erin Molzinski, and she stood on the podium for the very first time in her career last weekend. She was second to Molzinski in Aufderschwang, just in front of Marlies Shield, and you know, she was so promising back in the day, and in 2007 she caught an edge in Austria in a giant slalom, cartwheeled through a fence, collided with a stump, broke her arm and her leg, and tore all of her knee ligaments in her right knee. So it's just been a brutal comeback for Rezi Stiegler. She actually broke her femur and her tib a couple years after that, and she said she had nightmares about crashing, and now she's back, and she was second. She said it was the most unbelievable feeling, having come through all of those injuries and surgeries, and now standing on the podium was an incredible moment for her.
Native of Jackson Hole, Wyoming, one of those cool monikers that skiers either hear about or try to get to, and she lives it every day in the off-season. And happy with that result is the 26-year-old American. So early in the second run, just through 7 skiers, it's the Italian out in front with a 45/100ths of a second advantage on Animo Martin of France. But the big girls, big guns still to come. Lindsey Vonn led through the first run, and the woman she... Yes, that's the way they all became the Brady Bunch. Mike Carroll, Greg, Mark, they're all on there. 8 people on the chair. Only Alice has to wait at the bottom. That's unbelievable. All right, Sweden, that'll get you up the top a little quicker. Julia Giannassini trying to get to the bottom quickly, and again, one of those that Canadian fans should keep an eye on because she sits in 22nd, 1 spot behind Marie-Michelle Gagnon, trying to get into that top 25 or keep her place there for the World Cup finals.
Yeah, they're really packed in there in those 20s. A couple of ties for 22nd, 2 ties for 24th for Kirchgasser, who we'll see in a few racers. Giannassini's been pretty consistent all season long, scored points in every single race except one. That's why she's sitting in there in the top 5, just waiting for that breakthrough moment, but hasn't found it yet.
Yeah, to use the hockey analogy, it's like the Mike Gartner, just consecutive 30-goal seasons will get you to that big total because she hasn't been any better than 13th this year in the giant slalom. That came at Franska Gora, but here she is in 22nd overall. So, as you said, Brian, that speaks to her consistency.
Well, what I notice about her technique is it's really solid, and she does ski consistently. She has to take some chances now. Heck, you're on the World Cup. You've been, good all season long. You have to be aggressive, but she's just trying to hang on to that 22nd spot, not looking for much more.
So 7th through her second run with plenty of skiers to come. She had the 8th best second run. Maybe a little disappointing for her trying to hold on to that spot. This is Julia Mancuso. Happy 28th birthday to the fiery American. Never get tired of seeing her mugshot with her hair straight up in the air, but she's had herself a great year. She had that surprise win in the gimmicky event, as it were, in Moscow, where she came out of nowhere to win the city event. But she is a force to be reckoned with on the American team, even if she operates in the shadow of Lindsey Vonn.
Hasn't been great in giant slalom all season long. Was 3rd in Aspen, and that's been her best so far. But this looks good. 0.4 of a second up. Nice there, just quickly on and off that edge. She has just got so much talent. She can do it in any single event, it seems like.
She was 9th in the first race at Ofterschwein before she did not finish in the second. And now, with the lead, just past the midway point of her second run in RA Sweden. As they bring her home, and is not quite enough. 15/100ths of a second shy of the lead is Julia Mancuso, again celebrating her 28th birthday.
Come on, Mitch! Come on, Mitch! Let's go!
Come on, Mitch. We've heard that from the Canadian girls. Marie-Michelle Gagnon, again, so key to her. Sitting 21st in the standings, needs to hang on to the top 25, but didn't like to start, Brian.
Well, a couple big mistakes in the steep section of the course, and that light looks really flat right now, completely overcast, getting a little bumpy. And Marie-Michelle isn't a big fan of poor visibility. Whoa, nice. Really took that gate out beautifully, trying to be solid and aggressive, but I noticed just a sense of discomfort in her skiing, really not quite certain of how much pressure she should put on that edge. And sometimes with that bad visibility, it just gives you a false sense of security. You're not really sure what to do. Man, almost 9/10 back now. She really needs to pick it up down here, but she's going to be losing more time with a couple more mistakes.
The leader of the Canadian women's team, although she's still just 22 years old, won't be 23 until the end of April. 25 is a number on her mind. Could she get into the top 25? 15th at that point, and a 17th placing in the second run does not have her very confident of that fact. You can see the disappointment with 11 skiers to come for Marie-Michelle Gagnon. Another of those in that range is Michaela Kirchgasser of Austria, sitting in a tie for 24th. She's one of those that can bump the Canadian from the World Cup finals.
Gagnon made the quick exit, was certainly not happy with that run. Kirchgasser low again through that steep section of the course. Whoa, and she's getting bounced around. This light is really tricky now.
She's more of a slalom specialist as well. She's been in the top 10 in all of the slalom races. 14th in the giant slalom has been her best, but again, one of those consistent skiers which has allowed her to stay in the top 25.
Kirchgasser, her goggles have that bright yellow lens in. That's going to help her see a little bit better. That's what you want to have to look through when the light is extremely flat, is a big bright lens to brighten everything up so you can see those little bumps. Maybe that's helping her increase on this lead.
And whereas Marie-Michelle Gagnon struggled and might have fallen back from the top 25, Kirchgasser is putting a stamp on her place in the World Cup finals with a solid run. She sits in fourth, wasn't able to catch the young Italian Ager, who continues to lead, but a solid run from Kirchgasser, and Julia Mancuso sitting in second spot, 2 places better than the Austrian. Again, the big names still to come, the likes of Maze, Fenninger, Rebensburg, and Vonn. And there is Maze getting set for her second run. You'll see it after this on Sportsnet. Tessa Worley, who won in Soldau, one of her 7 career World Cup wins.
Look how windy it was in Soldau. That was quite the spectacular day. Won the first run and just clipped ahead of the second place finisher by 1600ths of a second, and she sits in an unfamiliar spot, starting way back here in 7th.
Seventh is where the French skier finished the first race at Aufderschwang before being eliminated by not qualifying in the second race.
But did you see her lead? 1.9 seconds on Azura, who's started 28th in the first run, is still hanging on to the lead, so she had a remarkable second run.
And the lead still well over a second. Worley part of the race for the GS title. The big names that we'll see in this final 7 skiers include Maze, Fenninger, Rebensburg, and Lindsey Vonn. But this may be the pace setter when it comes to those girls, because the advantage has been huge at each of the intervals. Will it be again for Tessa Worley? Yes, 3/4 of a second as she makes her way through the midway point of this second run, and it's a spectacular one.
Yeah, skiing very nicely. She's 3rd in the standings, 144 points back, so she's not out of the mix in the giant slalom standings. But those two DNFs have really hurt her position at the top.
The advantage at the line has fallen to 34 100ths, but that's good enough for Tessa Worley, the 22-year-old from France.
She's awesome. Just such a good skier. Dips in a little bit, but levels those shoulders out perfectly is what I like to see. And then she's driving forward, her upper body, her lower body, just following her upper body down the hill by being aggressive and charging down the mountain. And then look at this. This is just a beautiful way to take out that GS gate. Not necessarily you want to hit it on your helmet, but right up there on your top of your arm, and then kaboom, blows that out of the way. And that was a nice run from Worley. Tough to clap with a water bottle
She
in your
stood there,
hand.
and she stood there a long time. I'm surprised it's not frozen, but it is above zero in Sweden. Warm conditions for Stephanie Kohl of Austria, the 25-year-old. Amidst this slew of big names, she is a bit of an unknown in that regard. No podiums to her credit in her 61st World Cup start, but she's been closing in. She's had a 9th and a 6th this season.
And look how aggressive she is. Really nice. So it gets rocked around by a bump that you just can't see in this flat light. It doesn't seem to matter. When you're young and courageous, you just feel invincible like anything. And look at that lead. 3/4 of a second now. A little pivot in that turn. This is something special.
And I'll add the 8th and 11th finish last week at Ofterschwang, so 4 times in the top 11. Will this be the day for Stephanie Kohl to break through and hit that podium? The advantage, 3/4 of a second at the last interval. What does it bring with Tessa Worley? This time it's down to 3/10. So it will be decided in the bottom portion of the hill.
Oh, no. Wow.
And that is how it's decided, unfortunately, for Stephanie Kohl, who was putting together a spectacular run. And the Austrian contingent is moaning that one, because this, as you said, Brian, your words, something special was on the horizon on this run for Stephanie Kohl.
Yeah, that was up top where she got bounced around, and then this is where it all went wrong. Lost that left ski, hits the gate, and holy smokes, did she smack her head very hard on that. You know, it's not ice, but it's certainly hard snow. Good for her for getting back up on her feet, but Stephanie Kohl is one tough cookie. That was a nasty fall, and she's still got a smile on her face.
So here's Tina Maze, 28 years old, from Slovenia, one of the great all-round skiers in the world. And she's podiumed in the last 3 giant slalom races, including 2nd and 3rd last week at Ofterschwang. So peaking in this discipline at precisely the right time.
Where Kola had some problems in those bumps. Watch that hole right there. Okay, little slip, but made her way through it without too many problems. Now, Maza said when she went from the longer skis at the beginning of the year to these shorter World Championship skis that she won on last year, she was just able to find the rhythm much better, and she hasn't been off the podium in the last 3 races, and you can see why. She is just balanced, rhythmical, and picking up on the lead. Oh no, 200's now back.
Can she make it up on the bottom portion of the course? Top 5s this year in slalom, giant slalom, downhill, Super G. And trying to add another here in Åre, Sweden. Tina Maze of Slovenia. Across the line in 2nd position, 21/100ths of a second out. And at the top, it looked like it was going to be a lot better than that, but 16th in the second run is going to hurt her chances. The styling, Federica Brignoni of Italy. 13th in the first race at Ofterschwang, and then she did not finish the first run of the second race, but she has a pair of second-place finishes to her credit this year at Kranjska Gora and Lienz.
Maze looks so good, but that may, you know, her 16th place finish on that second run may be determined by the course conditions, because it is getting really bumpy on this second run.
About the 4th straight skier we've seen have a huge advantage up top, this time 0.8 of a second, but none of them were able to keep that pace to the bottom. So let's see if the 21-year-old from Italy can do that. So far, so good.
Yeah, hanging in there. This is a nice looking run. Seems to be getting a little tired down here. You have to stand tall. When that lactic acid is building up in those muscles, stand tall and let it go, and she's doing it well.
Finish line in sight now for Federica Brignoni. And how about first place in sight as she looks up and celebrates The advantage maybe even more impresses. 9/10 of a second. That is a lot. With 4 or 3 skiers to come, she was the 4th last, and now will only have to have one of them not captured to earn a podium, but she's probably got bigger things on her mind. Tessa Worley, who put together what looked to be a fabulous run, is now 9/10 back. Lindsey Vonn is likely going to decide it. She and Rebensburg still to come, along with Anna Fenninger. Brignoni of Italy has taken the lead. 3 skiers to come in this second run of the women's giant slalom. Anna Fenninger, 22 years old, from Austria. Got her first World Cup win in giant slalom this year at Liège. And now looking to podium, if not get to the top in Åre, Sweden.
That tough part of the course. Watch that hole right there. Okay. Man, that you really don't get a perspective on television how steep that is. It's running the downhill here in Åre, and downhill you just go straight down. It's pretty easy, but to make some turns down that steep pitch when it gets bumpy like this is almost impossible. But Fenninger's made her way through there okay, but has lost a whole boatload of time.
And again, the first skier in a while that didn't have a big advantage at the top, so it'll have to be a flip job for Fenninger if she is going to run down Brignoni of Italy.
All right, half a second, not too bad. Hanging in there in the middle part of the course. Does she have the energy to be able to do it down here, because she was getting bounced around so much at the top part of the course? That'll really take something out of your legs.
Another of the skiers that has been ultra consistent. All but one race had her in the top 10, and that's when she did not finish the first race last week. And here she is sitting in second, but a disappointing 17th on the second run. So she leaves the stage to the 2 big names. What happened at the top for Anna Fenninger?
Well, here it is up top, gets that right ski bouncing around, but just barely hangs on, and the women watching in the finish are still happy. But there's a couple to go. Don't hold your breath a little bit longer.
As it should be, as it comes down to the final race before the World Cup finals. It's Victoria Rebensburg, the leader, over Lindsey Vonn. They will be the final 2 skiers as they battle for the overall championship in giant slalom. And Rebensburg put herself in this position by sweeping both races at Afterschwang, 2 of her 4 wins this year. That's why she is the leader.
And if this interval time isn't slower, I'm not sure what will happen, because she skied so passively out of the start and has lost 3/10 of a second. Didn't really push that hard, skied conservatively up top, and maybe just trying to hang on to the lead in that overall giant slalom standings and not gun for this victory. It's a bit of a surprise. Well, still got the lead though. Sometimes when you're watching somebody ski and it doesn't look like they're trying, they're really gritting their teeth and trying the best. It's just they're so relaxed. It makes it look easy, and she's making this look really easy.
6 times on the podium this year, and she will be there again in giant slalom, putting herself in second position with 1 skier to come. You do the math, she's there, and the young Italian has guaranteed herself the podium as well. But will Brignoni be on the top or the second spot? Lindsey Vonn will determine that.
Come on. Go get it. Come on.
Lindsey Vonn not skiing passively. This is really aggressive. Whoa, didn't even bother worrying about those couple holes in the turns to the left. Grabbing that tuck again, just like we saw in the first run. Haven't seen anybody do that here today.
And she's picked up 15/100ths of a second. As a result, she won the season opener at Solden to kick off what has been a glorious campaign, and now trying to go bookends and win the final regular season start of the GS campaign, if you will, before they move to the World Cup final. She knows she'll be part of that, but she wants to put herself in a position to win the title in this and just add to the mix of the Crystal Globes that will be making their way back to her home. 57 100s is the advantage. She heads into the bottom portion of the course. Lindsey Vonn with 10 wins to her credit this year. Number 11 is in sight. Brignone of Italy awaits at the bottom, and Vonn has done it again. Unbelievable. Brian, it's the margins of victory that keep stunning us. Almost half a second again as we run out of superlatives to describe Lindsey Vonn, but she is climbing the ladder as one of the great skiers of all time and now one of the best athletes in the world. I don't know if anybody is dominating in an individual sport like she is right now. Incredible stuff. Win number 11 for Lindsey Vonn, and with Victoria Rebensburg finishing third, suddenly there is the option, and Marie-Michelle Gagnon, 25th, and that is a disappointment. 3.7 seconds back. Here's the winner.
Just an incredible second run. Really strong and solid and aggressive, and didn't really let the conditions affect her whatsoever. That flat light and how bumpy the course got didn't seem to bother Lindsey Vonn at all, and she destroyed the field again by half a second. It just is never ending for this great American skier.
We saw the emotion and the reaction from Lindsey Vonn as we checked the giant slalom standing. She has now moved within 100 points, and you know what it is, 100 for the win when they move to the World Cup finals, as Rebensburg sits on top, but Marie-Michelle Gagnon disappointing. We'll talk about that in a second, but here's Lindsey Vonn.
You know, I just wanted to have two really aggressive runs today, and I just, I have nothing to lose. I'm just having fun. My sister's here. My teammates are so cool, cheering me on the finish, and I don't know, I'm just really, really excited.
And you're the only American to win 4 overall titles. How do you feel about that?
I'm thrilled. I mean, it's crazy. My teammates, I love them.
You can just take the next week off now, right?
Yeah, right. I wish. Only a couple more races left, and we'll get to celebrate this year.
Boy, she's had a lot to celebrate. They joke about taking the week off, but she still got that giant slalom title to try to run down. But look at the overall. That one locked up. It feels like after the sweep at Lake Louise, it was a done deal for Lindsey Vonn. So, again, we run out of superlatives, but this is getting on the point of being an historic season now in the history of skiing, men or women.
Yeah, it is. Now she's won the overall title after today. She's won the downhill, the super combined, will probably win the Super G. And the thing that she was really focusing on, which was kind of interesting, is 2,000 points. She's just over 1,800 now. Herman Maier was the only guy to get to 2,000 points. Now she's thinking that she can surpass Herman Maier in the point standings, and she's getting close to Herman Maier in those overall victories that we see Ingemar Stenmark have 86. He leads there, and she's nipping on the heels of Herman Maier, just a couple behind him.
Incredible. 5th all-time, 3rd among the women. And very quickly, the math is simple. She's 95 back. So what does she have to do to win the giant slalom to catch Rebensburg next week?
Well, here we go into the numbers thing again. She has to win to gain 100 points in the giant slalom standings, and basically Ravensburg has to finish out of the top 15 because in the World Cup finals, only the top 15 get points.
So it could work in her favor. Marie-Michelle Gagnon, unfortunately, finished 26, the closest of misses for the Canadian. The top 25 go to the World Cup finals, and this was disappointing for her the second run in a lot of ways.
A real heartbreaker, I think. Yeah, I think that this one's going to bother her for a long time because she put herself in great position after the first run, finishing 12th, and I thought that was money in the bank. She just cruised down and finished in that top 25, but she will be extremely disappointed. The thing that she has to go with now is she's looking forward to the slalom tomorrow. There will be 2 women starting in the top 15 tomorrow, Erin Malzinski and Marie-Michelle, and they'll both be going to the World Cup finals in the slalom because they're guaranteed a spot there already. So this one will sting, but they're looking for redemption tomorrow in the slalom, which, hey, 1st and 5th last week. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow?
They're trying to continue that good finish to the season after a struggle for most of the year on the